Well, thanks for tuning in to the Essential Craftsman podcast. I'm Nate. I've got a great discussion for you here with Chris Ermides. Chris is an editor at This Old House, and he's a really well-rounded and interesting guy with a lot of experience in the industry, both as a tradesman and a contractor, as well as working for places like This Old House, Journal of Light Construction, Fine Home Building Magazine. He's put a lot of content online and has a lot of insight about tools and just all sorts of things. And it was really a fun and interesting conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's get right to it. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Nate. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm a huge fan of Essential Craftsman, and I've been following you guys since the beginning, I think.
Oh, well, that's great. Now, I want to start by talking about This Old House, and I almost hate to admit it, but I haven't watched much This Old House in my life. Now, I know the basics. I know Tom Silva and Norm Abrams, and I've seen a handful, but I'm not one of the guys who can say I grew up watching This Old House. So I'm hoping you can speak as if there's other people like me and bring me and everyone else up to speed on This Old House. Maybe give us the overview.
Happy to. And I hear you. No worries. So we started, the brand started in 1979, and it really launched the home improvement TV genre. So we started as we followed the renovation of a couple projects a season. And back then in 1979, they bought a house, I think, and then did the renovation. And Russ Morash, who spearheaded the whole thing and he was the visionary. He set the groundwork for where we are today. It's maintained its authenticity. It's trust with the audience over the years is 41 years, because we're so rooted in having pros. Our experts are actually real contractors, like your dad. Like they've been doing this they're for their careers, and this is what they do day in and day out. So like you mentioned, Tom Silva, he's a general contractor. He's been on the show for almost 41 years, I think maybe 35 years, 36 years.
Wow.
Rich Truthui, who's our plumbing and heating expert. He started, I'm pretty sure, since day one. And of course Norm Abram, who's around since the beginning as well, and launched New Yankee Workshop after several years on This Old House. So we've been doing the home renovation since 1979, and it's a family oriented show. I mean, I grew up watching it when I was a kid with my dad. My dad was a weekend warrior. He was constantly working on our house, and I would go to the hardware store with him on Saturdays, and I really got into it. I loved it, and we hear that a lot from folks. There are fans who've been fans for multi-generations, so so it's fun to be part of that. I feel really grateful to be part of that. And like I said, like our experts they're the real deal. No one's pretending to be doing anything. Everybody that is represented on our show, Jeff Sweener, Jen Nawada, Tom Silva, roster through. I mean, I could go through there's a long list now of what we've done over the years is we've expanded our trades and brought in more experts into the TOH universe, people who've been working on those jobs and on those job sites, Mauro Enrique, Charlie Silva. So it's been around for a long time. It was a TV show. It's still a TV show. We do 2 projects a season. We follow the renovation, like real, no frills, no tricks, no TV tricks, nothing like that happening. It's actual job sites, and we follow the renovation of 2 projects a season. over the course of, I think, 12-ish episodes each. And the goal is just to educate our viewers and entertain them, hopefully, and really just serve their interest and empower them. So our tagline is like, build your dream, do it right. So we've always been about doing everything as far as renovations, maintenance, anything, how to, like, the right way. And coming from our experts, they're trusted because, like I said, they've been doing it. So
There's something about, and that's what you're speaking to, but hearing something from the expert, meaning someone who's done it for decades, versus someone who could deliver the exact same information, but when you see them, like, you've never done that before. What is it? Why is that so? It's like intangible.
Yeah.
I don't know why it matters, but it does. It's everything, right?
It's so true. It's so true. And I think that's one of the reasons why your dad resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
He's like, he's got that magic, he delivers his like a Sunday sermon. And he's the confidence and
there's something
experience.
like, I think especially for guys in the trades, but even for anyone else making a living, where you see someone who has spent those same sleepless nights and stressful jobs and like has been in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they're not, like, for example, Larry Hahn is another person, and like when you're watching him make those videos, it's not like some high pressure thing the way it is on lots of job sites, but he's been there.
Yeah.
And there's something about that just makes you connect. Like, this person understands, whatever, a 14-hour day and having like a worn out boots, after a month or something. So it's just like, it's simultaneously intangible, but it's everything, that's like it's the foundation almost of being able to trust, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think part of it is, like Larry Hahn is such a great example. He goes about, he went about everything he did, and when he was sharing it with such ease, and it was like second nature to him. And I noticed that too with our experts, like, especially Tom Sello. I've been lucky enough to be on job site when he's doing stuff for the camera, in front of the camera, and he just loves teaching, and he loves to share what he knows and share his experience. But there's no, like with Larry Hahn, like with your dad, there's no pretense to it. There's no ego involved. It's just this is what I do. This is what I know. And I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah. That's right. Of the cast of This Old House, do you have any like particular favorites? Maybe when you were a kid that you were watching that that really stuck out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely as a kid, Tom Silva, he really resonated with me because of that. He's always seemed on, when I saw him on TV, to have this sort of gentle and generous spirit.
Yeah.
And that my dad is like that. Like my dad, he just felt sort of like my dad. And I think a lot of people, I've talked to other folks who've watched the show over the years and who grew up watching it, and I've heard that similar thing. And I think that's, he's the one that I got to meet him early in my career as a journalist in this industry, and he was my I was absolutely blown away getting to meet him. And so
there's something about not only someone who has the skills, let's say, like you said, making something difficult look effortless, because there's a lot of professionals, like you could even say professional athletes, who can do that, but to have that also be someone very approachable and open and friendly is just magic.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it really is. It really is. I've walked trade shows with Tommy in the past when we were able to actually go in person to trade shows.
Yeah.
And people flock to him, and he is always the same around all of them. He's just genuine, sincere, kind, happy to talk to anybody and super respectful. And I think
Huh.
I get the sense that he just appreciates being able to, like I said, like teach and share what he knows.
So I know you're not on like the film crew side of this old house, but we've learned in our spec house project how it's challenging because we are filming the real world, exactly what's happening, but having the camera there, it just changes it. And even in terms of planning, because there might be a process on the house that my dad wants to like dig into because
Hmm.
it makes perfect sense, and I'll be like, don't do that yet, because let's do that at this other time so that I can also film XYZ. Or maybe it's like, don't do that yet because I'd rather that didn't show up in the background of this video
Yeah.
we're doing right now. So I guess my point is, there, even though it is authentic, it's still the filming aspect changes it. Do you have any insight on
Oh,
what
sure.
that's like for you guys? Because the pros are, that's what they do, but I know it makes a difference on
Yeah.
like the way they have to work when the camera, and you guys have probably more than one camera and more than one person there.
Interestingly enough, for the main show for this old house, there is only one camera typically there.
Oh,
But and our producer and showrunner John Tomlin, he it's just planning, and I think experience for them, like Tommy, Richard, and Jeff Sweener, Charlie Silva, like Jen Nuada, they've all been through it so many times. They've been
yeah,
through the filming process so many times. So there's a lot of like we have a pre-pro call, and I get to be on those, and they talk about, okay, what we're going to shoot tomorrow, what's going to
uh-huh,
happen, and then, all right, well, you're going to be putting coffered ceiling up. What are the steps? And then Tommy will run through the steps, and
got
and
it.
then, what are we going to show? We're going to show these things. All right, well, we need to have these things pre-cut. So they I think that I've seen it happen, and I think that been doing it for so long that
Yeah.
they know sort of how to.
Yeah, we're probably at like the 1982 stage where they figured it out, but they got to work. They had to work these kinks out a long time ago, and that's what we've been, I'd say, improving on. Because when we started the project we're on, we pictured it totally different than how it's actually happening. For this
Sure.
exact reason, you think it's like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. You just run the camera, but it's just more complicated
Oh
than that.
yeah, absolutely. And I have to imagine too, it's tough for someone to be who's used to just doing it, just
Yeah,
like your dad with your dad's level of experience, just
yeah,
I'm gonna cut these stair stringers this way, and then he's suddenly gotta think
yeah,
about, like, you're stopping him and you're going, wait
yeah.
a minute, Dad, like I need to see the framing square register
Right.
on the edge there, and you can't, like,
Yeah,
we can't
yeah,
just go
exactly. It's
so
like,
fast. Like, I gotta
hold
imagine
on,
it's
or
like,
it's like, do that again real quick. That really would be so annoying. Yeah, not to mention, I mean, the camera. My dad, I've heard him refer to it like a microscope a lot of times, and what he means by that is like everybody's looking at all of his work like so up close and
yeah,
personal, and it's just human nature to kind of tend to be critical,
yeah,
and that would be hard too. Just like, I mean, there's just a lot of things that I'm sure tradesmen do that they're just glad nobody is looking at too close.
sure,
Not that it's wrong. It's just kind of like nobody needs to see that.
yeah,
And unfortunately, on for my dad and for your guys, it's sort of like, well, people are going to see it.
yeah, exactly. And I guess it's the, like, trusting. Like, I asked Tom once about, I joked with him that, there's other ways of doing things, and then there's Tom Silva's way of doing things. And
Yeah,
and he had a really interesting response, and it was like, this is the way I do it. It's not the only way to do it. It's not
yeah,
the, other people might do it differently, but this is just
yeah,
the way I do it. And when you have the experience that he has or your dad has, and other people, experts in the trades like them, they can. There's always going to be people online who are sitting
yeah,
there picking it apart, and have something to say about it. But at the end of the day,
yeah,
they're getting the job done, and you know, they're
yeah. And there's a type of confidence. Like my dad, he'll there will be some like critical comments, but they actually don't. bother him too much because, as most tradespeople know, it's like if you were here on this job in this setting,
Hmm.
you would know, it would make sense why. And so there's a confidence that comes with, have knowing you're doing it the way that works, that you've maybe not always done it, but to where if people are chirping and making complaints, then it's sort of like, well, I don't know what to tell you, that it had to be done that way. Even sometimes on one job, like if a tradesman comes after like another trade and it's like, oh, well, this person, why they do that? That really messed me up.
Hmm.
And you can usually just like, if you were there, be like, well, the reason is
Yeah.
because of this. And they're
Right.
like, oh yeah, I see. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, if it
Yeah.
had all the information, it would be a little easier to,
Yeah, and there's no if like to put all of that, to contextualize all of that all the time in video form or whatever, like it would just it would lose, I think, some of the magic and some of the point of what we're all doing. And
yeah,
like I'm thinking about we did a project recently, and they had to, because of scheduling, they put the wood floors in on the first floor and hung the doors on the second floor before, you know, so
hmm,
they ended up putting the wood floors down on the second floor and cutting the jams and doing all that, which some people
right,
do it that way. Other people,
yeah,
have their own preference. But, and it was only because like they had to have both those subs on the job site at the same day, and they had to
yeah,
keep the job moving. And people were
yeah,
say, well, why are they putting the doors up that way? It's stupid.
yeah,
But it's just, like you said, like
yeah.
you make those decisions and keep moving
And
forward.
that reminds me of cost, because it's very easy to look at a job or a video and be critical, saying, oh, well, this is a better product, or this, or like you said, if the sub made another trip, that would be better, but
Right.
it costs money to do that. And it's very difficult if you're not the one either writing the check or billing to care at all what somebody else is spending. And so that's something that it kind of falls through the cracks. People, they don't feel it the way we feel,
Right.
when we're
Yep.
writing these checks. And, that's how these things go.
Yeah. No, it is. And you hope that, that noise, to me, that sort of the criticism, just it fades away from,
Yeah.
with all the other the positive things that are coming out of it. You hope.
So, talk to me for a minute just about contractors. And I know you're not a contractor, licensed contractor in that way at the moment, but you've been around it, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I was for a long time. I worked in the trades for a long time, and
Okay.
was a remodeling contractor for a while.
Oh,
And yeah, no,
so why is it that, maybe just speaking about cost and price, but the skills, let's say the actual techniques and skills is kind of one thing, but the billing and the marketing and the scheduling is at least as complicated as the technical know-how. And I mean, you almost feel bad for the guys who are really skilled but who are weak in those areas,
yeah.
because it's really going to be hard to succeed as a contractor. Is that what you've
That's
seen?
yeah, I mean, that's my story, really. I mean, I loved the day-to-day. I loved the work. I loved improving my skills and growing and doing that and being on job sites and working with other trades and doing all those things. But at the end of the day, like working on my own and trying to have a business and create all that, like those aspects of it were way beyond anything that I felt I could even, like, have a decent handle on, let alone, firm enough to actually build into something. And I think that that's super common for people in the trades, and I think that that's something that I know that there's a guy I follow on Instagram, Sean Van Dyke. And he's sort of a business coach for contractors. And I
Oh,
know some folks, I have some friends who've used him, and it has really improved their ability to make a living as a tradesman,
oh, wow.
because they've given, he's sort of taught them those skills. And I mean, they're skills that, those of us who tend towards working with our hands and enjoying that process and get great satisfaction out of that, and working on homes and building homes, it's such a different skill set and interest than bookkeeping
Yeah.
and accounting and all of those other things, that it's like a foreign thing.
Yeah.
So I think that, the folks that I know who've been successful at it have figured out, how to put the right people in place to do that stuff for them, or have had enough of a knack to stand on something else to learn those skills. But I don't think it's anything
Yeah.
that comes real naturally.
A lot of contractors kind of get by then doing cheaper, shoddier
Yeah,
work because they're that's like the one thing that sometimes can give, and maybe they don't want to, maybe they do. I'm not making excuses for them, but that's how that happens, where a contractor does poor work and is on to the next job, is because he's missing out on those skills that would have
yeah,
allowed him to do the correct job. It's hard to find a good contractor.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that you bring up a really good point. I think that people, the whole adage, time is money, and I mean, it's
Yeah,
so true in our industry, and people get nervous about being on a job too long, or
yeah,
taking too long to do a specific task, and that if it takes you 3 days to do this, when if you were more efficient at it, it would take you a day, or you had better more tools or whatever to do it that much faster. It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge
yeah,
difference. And it's hard to, especially when you're starting out, it's really hard to get a handle on that. And
yeah.
I think that, for me personally, my experience when I was trying to work, I started out working for several different contractors early on in my career when I was in my 20s, sort of part time when I was teaching, and then went on, left teaching and went full time into construction. I was working for a contractor. We did everything from forming footings to the rough in wiring, framing, everything. We did all of it. And I left there thinking, okay, I've got these skills now. I can go, I'll be able to go do my own jobs. But I didn't appreciate, like, how important it was to have other people doing other things, and how much
Hmm.
time it takes to do things on your own, but also just how important it is to not spend too much time on things so that you can
Hmm.
keep moving forward. And
Yeah.
people, I think folks who are starting out in the business get lost in that pretty easily.
I feel like the weekend warrior types have a real advantage here because we all love working and using tools and watching something come together. And if you have a career that allows you to do these things on the weekend and on your days off, that is really a great middle ground
Hmm.
because you get to do the hands-on part, you get to be around the tools, and you don't have to deal with all of the rest of it. So I guess what I'm saying, if you have an office job and you're kind of wishing and thinking like, oh, if only I could be in the sun. Um, it's not bad to be able to do it on the weekends. Also,
Yeah.
there's a real silver lining to doing it that way, and it is that you miss out on that whole. It maybe it's more than half of the job of a contractor is managing employees and payroll and
Hmm.
billing and bookkeeping and I'd say the guys who are the best, most successful contractors are not very often the ones even doing the work, which is probably the what got them there in the first place. So
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
before we move on from this old house, what's new at this old house? I know you guys have, or you're running a podcast there now. Tell us in what way it's continuing to evolve and what other types of content you guys are putting out.
So in addition to the flagship show, This Old House, we launched Ask This Old House 19, 20 years ago, I think. And that is a different sort of show where homeowners write in, and then our experts go and help them with whatever maintenance, repair, or upgrade question they have. So the brand has evolved in that way, and now we're taking all of that, those years of content, and trying to make it more accessible across all the different platforms that are out there now. We have a streaming app. We're available. We're still weekly on PBS to millions of viewers. We have a very robust YouTube channel now. I think we're up to 1.5 million subscribers. So
Wow.
we're trying to reach, provide information to folks there. Like you said, we've got the Ask podcast that I'm working on, where people, we get questions all the time, and people will write in for the show. We can obviously address all of them. So the podcast is an opportunity for us to make our content accessible to more people, and to serve some of those folks who are looking for answers. And so I'll interview a homeowner, and then I'll go and I'll interview the expert on the answer. And the purpose of that is to be hopefully entertaining and interesting, but also like digestible and easy access for folks on that information. And then we also launched another podcast last year called Clear Story, that's hosted by our TV show host Kevin O'Connor, and that I got to work on that with him, and we're ramping up for another season 2 pretty soon. That is like, the whole premise of it is a clear story window that sheds light from above. So
Yeah.
we're taking topics like water, or framing, or building science, and deconstructing it in a way, and like shedding light on some parts of that particular topic that people wouldn't think about, and doing a really deep dive,
Mm.
interviewing industry experts, other folks outside of our experts are still part of the conversation, but we'll also bring in other experts in the industry, in whatever industry
Mm.
it is. So that's another way that we're growing and developing new content. And social. I mean, we're
Mhm.
all the experts on this old house have Twitter and Instagram accounts. Tommy Silva has a TikTok account. It's hilarious. It's really pretty amazing. Um,
Wow. Okay. I
yeah.
gotta
So,
check
and
that out.
he's super active on Instagram. Kevin O'Connor is really active on Instagram. Jen Nawada, Mauro Enrique, Charlie Silva, Jeff Sweener. I mean, the whole crew, Ross Truthui, everybody's really active on Instagram,
Huh.
and showing their own job sites, but also just behind the scenes of our show or shoots, and
Yeah.
and Facebook as well.
I think everyone could agree who's attempted even like a weekend project that asking somebody, a pro, to just answer like a 1-minute question it's unbelievably helpful and valuable. And that comes from somebody who like I Google everything. I can find anything on
Hmm.
Google. But when I was remodeling and flipping houses in Arizona for several years, and I would call my dad regularly, daily, and I took it for granted, But no, actually, I didn't, because it was so helpful. Like, what do I do here? And he would walk me through the steps. And even right now in my shop, I've got to do a little electrical work, and I was trying to think like, oh man, what gauge wire does a sub panel this size need?
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
that question, and then an electrician would come out just instantaneously, and it's so valuable. So I'm speaking about like these call-in shows where homeowners ask questions, and I know that show's been going on for a while, but there's other radio shows like that, and I just love that concept of letting an expert answer questions, and everybody else kind of listens in, and it's
Yeah,
just amazingly valuable.
it is. It is, and it's fun. For me, I love learning. I love being able to facilitate that when I can. And I spent some years as an editor at Fine Home Building and at JLC, and I got to do that on a daily. Like, I would go to job sites around the country and just
Hmm.
look over pros' shoulders and be like, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" I love it because it improves my skills, and then when I'm working on my own house, I can,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to replicate their, play at their level, even though I never
Right.
come close. At least I have the information. But like you said, like having access to that, and being able to let homeowners in on that is really great. It's really satisfying.
So this old house started in the East, right? That's where the first kind of seasons were, and maybe still. And maybe explain a little bit about like the East Coast type of construction versus the West Coast. Not that they're so different, but
Yeah.
you've probably been around a little more than the average person. And how would you describe the big differences between the different maybe quadrants of the U.S.?
Well, my main experience, my hands-on experience has been mostly on the East Coast, though the framer I learned from spent time in California, framing in California. So I have a little West
Hmm.
Coast framing in my
Okay.
blood, I guess. Although we used sidewinders,
Hmm.
and you guys out there and
Yeah,
Larry
get that
Hahn
out of here.
yeah. Um, but it's interesting. The things that I've seen lately are more related to the tools. I think that there was a time, maybe 10 years ago when I was at Fine Home Building, and I could see a big difference in the way, just basic things like sheathing, building the floor, decking the floor, and then building and sheathing the walls on the floor deck and then lifting it up. Like that's
Hmm.
such a West Coast thing.
Hmm.
Now, back east, that wasn't really done the same way, or the way we do our run our jack studs straight to the bottom plate,
Mm.
or instead of interrupting them in the middle with a sill plate, like that sort of stuff. I feel like has evened out more now because to me, because of social, because of
Hmm.
Instagram.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Instagrammers, Tim Mueller, awesome framers is his handle. He has 100 some odd thousand followers, and he's in the Pacific Northwest, and I feel like his technique is sort of making its way
Mm.
across the country because people are seeing, there's more there's more back and forth happening now. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't, to be honest with you. It's been a while since I'm taking a long-winded way of answering the question. It's been so long since I've been on a job site on the West Coast that I don't feel
Yeah.
like I can adequately, say
Sure.
one way or the other. But I do think that's happening where people
Yeah.
are learning, sharing
Yeah.
more on
You know,
social.
a better way to look at it, I think like quadrant and like the coast wise, but it's probably more like climate
Yeah.
oriented. In other words, like the Northeast cold states are probably doing things similar to northern Montana and like
Yep.
Canada because
Yep.
it's more weather oriented as
Yep.
opposed to where. And to your point about techniques kind of spreading out. Same with materials these days, where big national retailers are sharing and selling products, across the whole country, maybe
Hmm.
in a way that wasn't happening 10 or 20 or obviously definitely 30 or 40 years ago. But, now if there's a good product that's made by, a big company, it's probably available
Yeah.
everywhere or can be sent there relatively easily.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Huber zip
Exactly.
sheathing is a perfect example.
Exactly.
I remember I was a project manager, site super for a while for a custom home builder up in the upstate New York, and zip sheathing was just new enough that framers who'd been around for a long time didn't know how to use it. So
Mhm.
this particular project I was on, I came in after it had all been framed. They didn't roll the tape. They didn't really install it properly. It was the first time they'd ever used it. And it was new to me. Like I'd seen it, I'd heard about it, but I was still used to Tyvek and, house wraps,
Yeah.
WRBs in that regard. And I wasn't totally sold on the concept of it. And it wasn't installed properly on this particular house. And I wasn't seeing it very much. But
Mhm.
now it's like I see it everywhere. But it's
Mhm.
not that, it's LP's, version of it. And
Yep.
that used to be, I think, it's not necessarily a quadrant thing or a coastal thing, but it, like you said, like its availability
Yeah.
was that maybe they were like focusing on specific markets for a little while, and then it just grew out of that. And now you can't. I don't see house wrap very often. Certainly not like traditional,
Hmm.
the way we used to slap staple it, and
Yeah.
or cap staples. Mike Gerton's
Right.
listening to me. I don't want to. I don't want him to think I'm. So
So the
yeah.
zip is, while we're on that, it is superior basically in every way, right? At this point, it's pretty much decided. It's the way to go.
It seems that, yeah. I mean, the building scientists are behind it.
Yeah.
Certainly, in terms of efficiency, and when you're building a wall, when you're building a house, it's just it's so fast. It's like there's less opportunity in my mind for things to fail if you're doing it
Yeah.
right, if you're doing it properly, if you're
Right.
rolling the tape and you're flashing, your shingle styling your tape and edge
Yeah.
of
You're
seams and
setting the
all that.
nail depth properly and
Yeah,
stuff.
all that. So it's
Yeah, a home builder here, we were asking about it. We kind of made the comment like, "Well, it's more expensive," and he pushed back. He's like, "I don't think so. By the time you track down the house wrap and get two guys on a windy day and just
yeah,
all that," he's like, "It's not more expensive."
yeah,
And we did like a kind of a hybrid on the spec house we're building, mostly just because we wanted to use it. And looking back, we both kind of felt the same way. Like, man, we should have probably just done that the whole way across. So I can see why it's pretty much the way to go.
yeah. And now they're developing, what's cool to me in this, getting to see over the years, is the way these products have evolved, and the different things that have come up. Like, you know, now you can get Zip R, which has rigid foam insulation on the underside of it, and you're no
Amazing.
longer like having to wrap your house with another layer of rigid to meet your energy code or whatever in your particular area. Now
Yeah.
it's integral to the sheathing, and yeah, you've got to
Yeah.
figure out your nailing. You've got to use a different nail, a different length
Yeah.
nail. You might need a specialized nail gun, but now those are becoming more readily available. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's all, I I think it's all moving the industry forward. I really do.
Yeah. 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 That's really cool. Hey, so maybe we'll kind of finish about tools because it's kind of closely related to all this
Yeah,
and the way that tool technology is growing or expanding at the same rate or maybe even faster than materials. To start out, when I first got my first lithium ion drill, it was a Hitachi. I almost returned it because I thought there was something wrong that the battery was so light. And I remember like I was criticizing it to my neighbor. I was like, "This thing is a piece of junk. Look, it weighed like nothing." And I was like, "There's nothing in this." I shows what I
yeah, yeah.
assumed. And anyways, and that was probably 15 years ago
Oh
now.
my
But
gosh. Have you
so
have you picked up a cordless impact driver or drill lately?
it's insane. It's just insane. And I was comparing that to the big NiCad
Yeah,
batteries
sure.
that were just it was not even
Yeah.
comparable. So how do you think about tool technology and how it's changing? Are there tools you're really excited about right now, or do you think that tried and true you kind of lean that way, or how do you approach your tools?
I think that cordless tools are everything. And you look at manufacturers now: Makita, Milwaukee, Bosch, DeWalt, Metabo, HPT. Everybody is developing cordless tools, and they're trying to expand their cordless tool options because that technology, they're not even, like, they say they haven't even tapped all of the potential out of it. So with NiCad battery technology, it was very limited in what you could get, the amount of power you could get, the amount of runtime you could get. There was a lot of issues with weather, with climate, and
Hmm.
its reaction to cold and hot. But with lithium ion technology, those limitations aren't there, or certainly not to the degree compared to NiCad. And then compared now, add to that now the motors that they're creating, brushless motor technology. So the tools you get now, the hybrid hypoid, I forget what they're called, but you guys love sidewinders out there.
Hmm. No,
You
worm drive.
the worm drive. Sorry, I'm sorry. It's a sacrilege. Sorry, I didn't mean to
I
offend
dare
you.
you.
You guys love the worm drive out there. Blade left saws, they're cordless now, and they're not a worm
Yeah.
drive, but they
Yeah.
have a motor in them, and with the batteries, you can use them. People are framing houses completely cordless now. Awesome
Yeah.
framers, Tim Mueller, his crew, they frame like exclusively cordless, with the exception of probably their nail guns, but
Yeah.
everything else is completely cordless. And
Wow.
we haven't gotten there. We've gotten to a place with pretty much every tool where you can replace the corded version of it and not notice a difference. Miter
Yeah.
saws easily, like you don't need a corded miter saw
Wow.
on a job site. Cordless table saws, they're perfect. Like they work. And the good thing about them, and this is something I've heard from pros who use cordless tools regularly on job sites, is they take away the safety issue of cords running around. There's no
Yeah.
trip hazard anymore.
Yep.
There's a lot of benefit to them, and runtime it's showing up. Like you can,
Yeah.
it's rare that, depending on what the tool you're using, but it's rare that you can outrun the battery on your impact driver.
Yeah.
You have a battery on your impact driver, you have another one on the charger. Like you're
Yeah.
never going to outrun those two batteries. You just
Yep.
not. It's not going
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
So to me, and now with Milwaukee just launched this new, I forget what they call it, but they have cordless breakers, like full size cordless generator. I mean, you're running. I remember building a house in the dead of winter in upstate New York. It was the most miserable winter of my life, and we were we had generator power, and it was noisy.
Yeah.
We're always fighting the generator in the morning, and
Yeah.
running. If you didn't plan ahead, you ran out of kerosene or whatever. Like it
Yeah.
just diesel. It was miserable. Like
Yeah.
none of that just doesn't exist anymore. I
That
mean,
noise of a generator running is torture.
oh my
It's
god,
just like it drains you.
it so does. It so does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It never occurred to me, but you're right. With cordless tools, just turn it off.
yeah. You turn it
Amazing.
off. Yeah. So I feel like I I I don't think that it's necessary to run out and buy the latest whatever.
Yeah.
And particularly if it's the first generation of something. Um, there's been plenty of manufacturers who've been the first to market with a certain tool, a certain
Yeah.
category of tool, and sometimes they hit it out of the park right away, and sometimes it needs a rework.
Yeah.
And so I tend towards holding back, and I
Yeah.
used to get really excited about stuff when it came out, but now I'm a lot more. I try to be more balanced and skeptical.
I had the hand tool rescue guy Eric on a couple weeks ago, and he restores old tools, and he was explaining some old tools that guys invented that you just are like, what in the world were they thinking? But what they were thinking is what you just illustrated, that you kind of tried, you test it, and obviously after that iteration, they're like, okay, we got to try something different. But that trial and error process of R&D or development, whatever, is just a part of it. You're never going to get those like superstar classic tools
Right.
without some number of kind of, half flops, and then you'll get one that just bang, one of the real winners.
Yeah, but every once in a while though. But then there's Mark Martinez,
Yeah, good call.
it just occurred to me because I'm thinking about he used Instagram to
Yeah,
get feedback on his prototypes as he was developing that square, the
right.
Raptor square, and he's constantly improving all the stuff that he's doing. But I remember when he first told me about, he's like, Chris, we got to talk. I got this great new hammer. And I was like, Mark, come on. Like, there's no way. Like, you created this stiletto. There's no way you did not
Yeah,
beat the stiletto. Like, come on,
Yeah.
man.
Lightning didn't strike twice in the
No,
same
there's no
spot.
way.
Yeah,
And then he showed me, he showed it to me, and there were folks out, and then he'd shown it to a bunch of people out in the Pacific Northwest already. I was at JLC at the time, Tools of the Trade, and he was telling me about people's reaction, and I just, it was hard. I had a hard time getting my mind around it. And then he showed everything to me. He showed me the way the hand, the head comes off the handle, and
uh-huh.
changing the grip and everything. I was like, this is awesome. This
Yeah,
is so awesome. So,
yeah,
and he continues to push the envelope
yeah.
with
Yeah,
the,
he's an innovator, huh?
he is an
He's just
innovator.
it's like, this mindset of, everything can be improved,
Yeah.
as opposed to, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it."
Right.
It's like those are both true. I
Yeah.
love, like, the mindset behind both of those things,
Right.
but the continuing to innovate has the benefit of, like, creating some new cool stuff, so maybe it has the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got he has the experience to back it up. I mean, he spent so
Yeah,
many years
yeah.
beating up wood.
Right. Yeah. Hey, so about cordless tools, are pretty familiar with at least all the big name brands. Does any of them stand out? Do they any of them like approach these things differently, or what's your point of view on the big companies all
I
competing?
I feel like they all have their strengths and weaknesses in a given area. And they're like Festool, for example. Festool, they're very niche. They want to be a resource for woodworkers, for high-end finish carpenters, and for painting contractors. They're not trying to
Mhm.
do anything else.
Yeah.
They don't want to be. They're not trying to be in the plumbing world. They're not trying to be in the
Yeah.
electricians. Like, they're not trying to do any of that. That compared to Milwaukee, who does, they want to be on everybody's,
Yeah.
in all the vans on a job site.
Yeah.
They want all the trades to be using their tools.
Yeah.
And their foundation was plumbing and electrical. And I think that I think they all do things something well. I can't
Yeah.
say that there's anybody that does anything like all of it well,
Mhm.
like, not to pick on Milwaukee, but there's, like, they came out with their first finish nailer, um, cordless finish nailer, and it was just like the first generation of it was not good. It
Mhm.
had so many flaws, so many issues with it. They've redesigned it and, you know, hit a home run, but
Yeah.
they have they have their angle drills and
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
sawzall and their other things that
Yeah.
they're just
The
like,
whole hog.
yeah, their whole hog.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
they do that stuff so well. So,
Yeah.
I think all the big ones, Makita, DeWalt, they're all improving. They're all pushing each other. There's a lot of competition there, which I think is good. And,
Yeah.
I struggle with trying to, you know, I have a little bit of all brands.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's so fun being in this day and age where the competition between all of these companies is so like intense,
mhm.
and the marketing's everywhere, and that's great. But as a consumer, it's like we just win because
Yeah,
all of these new
it's
great
true.
tools. I mean, they're all making like these awesome radios now and stuff, and it's not that it's just such a for the consumer, we just really win having all
Yeah.
these choices, all these great tools, really creative ones. I just noticed, maybe they all have this, but Makita has a cordless rebar tire,
Mhm.
which is used to be really kind of specialized deep. And now Makita's got one available. It's like I could put my battery on it and run it. They're expensive, but
Yeah.
how cool,
It's so cool. I know, it's so cool. And, just to speak to that, you could use this or not, but, people ask me a lot. They ask a lot of folks, pros. I'm sure they ask your dad all the time, ask you guys, what if I'm starting out, what should I do? Like, what should I buy? What brand should I buy? And the advice I always give is to look at the tool you're going to use the most and
Yeah,
try and, do some research, find reviews on that particular tool
yeah,
and invest in that and build your platform. You want to build a battery platform if you're starting out in the trades, you don't want to be jumping around to different battery platforms, but you want to try and figure out which tools you're going to use the most, and go with that battery
Yeah.
platform. You might end up needing you might be a plumber, and you might end up needing a framing nailer down the line, and there might be a better framing nailer than the one that the battery platform that you're on, but it's not something you use all the time. So you don't need that best one. You just need a framing nailer. So I think
Mhm.
that's, try and figure out your core tools, and invest in that category, in that battery platform.
That's really great. I'm going to ask you a couple tool brands and that I don't totally understand what they're great at, but I know they're great at something. And the first is Hilti.
Hmm.
Is that just like ultra premium, high industrial grade, or what's up with Hilti?
Hilti, Hilti's their main focus is commercial construction. So, concrete and electrical and plumbing for commercial trades. And
Okay.
all their tools, the thing about their tools, they're a little more expensive, in some cases a lot more expensive, but they have a 20-year warrant. They have a crazy warranty. Their warranty package is unmatched.
Oh wow.
So if you're a big concrete contractor and you have to have 15 rotary hammers in your
Yes.
arsenal,
Got
you
it.
you you might be, but you're buying the most expensive rotary hammers, but they're also built and designed for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when you're down one, they're gonna, probably give you one to use while they're fixing the other
Oh,
one. So
wow, that's
it's
cool. And
it's
if you've been in business 75 years, you know you're going to be in business 75 years from now.
yeah.
Worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
And as an aside, I mean, I have their cordless. I have a cordless drill driver kit from them, 22 volt, and a light that I'm actually using right now. Um, I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so lightweight. It's so powerful. It's quiet. It's got some great features, and that I've had for probably 3 years.
That's cool. Okay, what about Fine?
Fine. They were the first to create the multi-master,
Uh-huh. Is that like
and
that's like the vibrating,
that's the vibrating
oscillating
oscillating tool. Yeah,
multi-tool?
so they were the first. They had the patent for a very long time on the oscillating tool, and
What's the official name of that tool? Is there a generic
yeah,
name for that
no, I
multi-tool?
I gosh, I think it's an oscillating
Well, this
multi-tool.
answers it. There's not some generic term that's
There
like
is,
totally
there
common,
is,
huh?
and I just, for a long time it was the multi-master,
Okay.
but now their patent expired like 4 or 5 years ago, and then every
Yeah.
manufacturer came out, but everyone's trying to chase Fine. Like,
Yeah.
that multi-master is like, you're gonna spend a little more money for it, but if you're using one every day,
Yeah.
it's worth it.
And they make other tools as well, or are they
I
just
think
kind of
they
those, like,
do.
premium woodworking stuff?
I think they do make other, they and, like, Metabo, not
Yeah.
Metabo HPT, but Metabo are, I think, do a lot of, metalwork stuff, and they
Oh,
have, like, grinders, and I'm pretty sure Fine has grinders, um,
yeah.
and other drills, and, stuff like that, but that multi-tool, oscillating multi-tool, I think is the name of it. The
Yeah,
oscillating
okay.
multi-tool
Yeah.
was their flagship. But
Okay.
they probably did other tools at the time too, but they were the first to do that.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, any other tool comments or brands or shout outs from you while we got you here?
Not that I can think of.
Any
No.
personal favorite tools or antique tools, heirloom tools, or tool that you just are like so happy to own that you keep on your workbench just because you love it?
I have an Estwing curved claw hammer that was my dad's,
Mm,
and I don't use it, but I have it, and I'm like, will never give it up.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
so classic.
it is. It's the classic Estwing hammer, and I love it.
Has the rubber turned like kind of like turquoise greenish sort
It
of?
was actually, it was leather. It had a leather handle on
Oh,
it,
the leather one. Okay,
and
even better.
one of
Wow.
so, years ago, my dog at the time chewed the leather off of it, and it crushed
Yeah.
me, and I plan to, hopefully this conversation will spur me to actually get it
Yeah,
done, but
do a
I wanna have it
beautiful
I wanna have
restore.
it redone, yeah.
So tell me, let's end on this, Chris, and thanks for coming on. But you mentioned you are running a podcast with This Old House that launched recently. Tell us about that and where the viewers can find you and what that's all about.
Yeah, so it's called Ask This Old House. It's available anywhere you get your podcasts, and 10, 15-minute episodes about a variety of topics, electrical, plumbing, heating, insulation, all of it. We cover everything. And you can download it. It drops weekly on Thursdays.
Hmm.
So love for you guys
So
to give
is
it a
it a
listen.
call-in show? Is it call-in like from just homeowner types, or is it just
It's not a
what's the
call-in
format?
show. So people write us, and then I call the homeowner,
Okay.
interview the
So you kind of
homeowner.
you kind of curate the
We curate it. Yeah. So it's all
yeah
edited so that you're
yeah
not hearing my ramblings or my,
yeah.
you know, off-topic questions or whatever.
Oh, so you're
You
kind of delivering the problem to your experts and
exactly.
talking about. Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right. Well, everybody check that out. We'll put the link to it in the description. Chris, thanks a million for coming on, for watching our videos. And I know you shared some of our videos in the past on some of
Yeah.
your blogs and stuff. So
Yeah.
thanks for all of that.
Thank you.
And looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with over your future This Old House seasons.
Thank you, Nate. It's good to chat.